Next on the list, Mazda 8. All right, so we got this guy right here. We're gonna put that kit in that you just saw. First thing we wanna do is get the radio out of the dash. This car would be one we'd love to film like just a radio replacement video on, but he's not doing the steering wheel control. To me, it's not really a complete, you know, and I like to have those be complete packages. We show you everything from start to finish. So for this, it gets demoted to just part of the vlog. How you doing, Fernando?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Wonderful. Let's go ahead and get this radio out. First thing we wanna do, open the kit, grab the instructions. Metra kits are really nice about this. If you're trying to get a radio out of a dash and you can't figure it out, go to metraonline.com and go to that kit. They give the best instructions when it comes to disassembling the dash. They literally tell you every step. If you're ever having problems, metraonline.com, go to that kit, get these instructions. You can print them off or just view them on your phone. They tell you everything. And this car, you definitely want the instructions for this car, especially if you've never done one, because they have one of these crappy hidden bolts in the side here. Mazda loves to do that, but you gotta go get it. Yeah, it's real fun. All right, let's get into the car. So the first thing we wanna do is pull up this guy here. If you wanna leave your gear shifter off and leave this exposed, that's on you. This guy has scratched more dash kits that I've ever seen. So just go ahead and throw your gear shifter back on. Put your cool sock over it. Just be safe. Now we want to pull out the cigarette lighter. Now what you want to do is go to the driver's side of the car, and you need to remove this panel over here. Drop underneath the steering column. You got to get this out, because like I said, there's a bolt that's in the side here that's holding this. Now we just need to get these radio screws out here. Once we do that, this guy will come right out. This is definitely one of the more fun radios to take out of the dash. It does help to have more than one person if you guys haven't figured that out. Crush my finger. All right, now we got this out. So while we're looking at this dash, this piece right here, this needs to be removed. So you can cut it here at the top, you can cut it here at the bottom. There's a giant wiring harness right here, so be super careful. But that piece needs to come out. You also might want to do yourself a favor and remove some of the side area here. Don't lose your wires, because it's got this back clip right here, and it will make it easier to get wires through. Okay, here we need to get this over to the bench, because we got to take some of this stuff off of this and put it into the new kit. While I'm over at the bench, Fernando's go ahead, and this is what we use. If you haven't seen it before, this is really nice. It has a cool Dremel multi-material carbide tip cutter on it. It just vibrates. It does a really good job in dashes to remove these pieces that we always have to take out. He's also going to run the Bluetooth mic and figure out where to put the USB and aux jack. Good luck.
Yay.
All right, so one of the things we need to remove is the cool hazard switch. So to do that, we need to take apart this side area here, and we need to remove this. We have to disassemble this, so let's get to it. Just set this aside for right now so we can start working on the dash kit. We may need to get these clips off. Now the first thing to come out of the box is the shiny new dash kit. Bottom is the brackets, and then inside here are all the electronics, and that answers that question. It comes with some clips. Now we'll just set the box aside so that we can use it to put all the factory stuff back in when we're done. This is my favorite style. So in the box you should have two identical looking extensions, a blue and pink. This is the hazard switch extension, the main wiring harness, and the brain itself. Now this thing is huge. This is unnaturally large. I mean, there's no reason for it to be this. I mean, look at the size of this thing. You can fit 4 of these inside of this. Blows my mind why Metra would make this so big, but they do. The one thing on here is these things are labeled. Like this says temp, this says fan, this says display. These are important because if you get these wrong, you blow this thing up. We'll get to what we do to prevent that in a minute. But all right, let's go back to our instructions and see what we're at right now. Prepping kit. What we need to do is these guys right here. These guys, when this screws in here, as you can see, these hang out where the radio is going to be. So the first thing we need to do is go ahead and remove these guys. All right, now we can go ahead and assemble them in the kit using 2 of the factory screws. Now it's fine if you want to use a cordless drill to take the screws out. Putting it back in, use a screwdriver. Okay. Now we have our 2 extensions. On this side, we have temp, and on this side, we have fan. Put an F, and put a T. Now we can go ahead and plug in our extensions, and we want to put an F on here, and we want to put an F on this end. So now we know this is fan. Do the same thing on this side, put a T. When these are in the dash and it's all congested and you have these 2 things coming into this guy here, you have no idea of knowing what is what. They just want you to pay attention. I mean, God forbid you make one like purple and one gray or one white and some differentiation, but I guess they don't want to think of that. So now when you see this says fan, it'll plug into this side, and this one says temp, T, it'll plug into this side. This will just save you from blowing this thing up. All right, now we can go ahead and screw in the hazard switch. So lastly, we want to go ahead and put in our body panel clips. Make sure you hear them click in place. All right, now we can set this aside. At this point, you can go ahead and reassemble the factory radio and put all the pieces back together so you don't lose any of the screws in case you ever want to reassemble this bad boy. So let's check in with Fernando and see how he's getting along with the Bluetooth mic and the USB. So where did you put the Bluetooth mic?
On top of the mirror.
And what are you working on now?
I'm working on the USB and the aux. It's gonna be right here in the center console.
So you took the whole center console cover out and you're routing it up into the front. And then I can see you've already gone ahead and trimmed out the dash.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll have enough room to fit that softball of a harness. All right, so now let's take a look at this cool wiring harness that we have here. Go ahead and kind of separate it out a little bit. So on one end, you have your 8 speaker wires, your white, gray, green, and purples. You have a amplified antenna and an amplifier turn-on lead. And on the other end, you have all these other guys, which are strange colors with the exception of red is accessory, yellow is constant 12 volts, black is ground, orange, white is illumination, and orange is also illumination. One is dimmer, one is illumination. Then you have these other guys. Now Metra uses their own specific colors to do things like reverse, VSS, and emergency brake. So what you have is green is parking brake, green purple is the reverse trigger, and pink blue is vehicle speed sense. Now this harness here, this is for these 3 wires. So if you need these 3 wires to function, then you have to take this harness here and go ahead and connect this over to the OBD2, which it's going to explain to you here on page 5, so that these will then become active. Now I will tell you this, according to the instructions, if you have a manual transmission, the reverse will not work. Most of the applications for this are for the reverse wire. It might just be easier just to go tap the reverse wire and not worry about attaching into that. So we don't need any of those. So we're just going to go ahead and cap these off and set them aside. Now I will say the one thing that is semi-frustrating about these kits from these guys is that they don't explain to you what all these mean. Yeah, sure, they tell you what these 3 wires mean, but that's it. They just assume that you're going to know what the rest of these are. And I know from doing these that assuming that is a bad idea, because not everyone knows what an orange wire is. Not everyone knows what an orange-white wire is. If you're putting in an Alpine radio and you see this orange-white wire and you match it up to an Alpine's orange-white wire, this This is illumination. On an Alpine, it's reverse. That's why we continuously tell you what all these wires are. I know some of you guys are well beyond that in your installation ability, but some of you guys are catching these videos for the first time, and that's why you're watching them, because you're hoping that we'll give you that little glimmer of hope as to what all these wire colors are. So we're going to use the orange, white, the red, the black, and the yellow. At this point, all we need to do is match these up with the exception of this blue. This blue is going to be the amplified antenna. We always hook up amplified antennas to the red wire unless we're doing a radio that has a blue wire output. So like a lot of the Kenwoods have a blue wire output. Pioneers don't. So in that case, we're going to hook it up to the red wire because that's just accessory. Now, if you have a car that has a power antenna and you have a blue wire, you may want to put a toggle switch on it so you can manually turn it on and off, put the antenna down, especially if you're doing something that doesn't have a blue wire output for car washes. Alright, so our harness is all set. We're just going to go ahead and plug it into the brain box now, along with the display cable. Now you want to look for the hole that says display. Go ahead and plug that in. You can bring this over. This is going to plug into the little 4-pin, will plug into the only little 4-pin input on the brain. And now you want to grab the one that says fan and plug that into the fan, which is going to be next to the display cable. So it snaps in, push hard. Then go ahead and grab the last, which is going to be the temp, and that plugs in on the other side. Go ahead and plug that in nice and tight. This is what you end up with. So now we gotta fit this in the dash along with the radio. So let's set this aside and we're gonna put the brackets on the side of the radio and do a little test fitting. All right, so how these brackets are gonna go in is with the thing on top, and there's literally one screw that's gonna hold it. So we just have to fit these on here and screw them down. All right, let's take it in the car and test fit it. We gotta pull these screws.
Yep.
How the fuck's it going under? Got screws?
I got screws, yes, sir.
Yeah, we gotta put a spacer in there.
Spacer vents.
Back in. The reason why we're going through the hassle of making this piece of bracing here, because of the 2 screws. Otherwise, as you saw, the radio will wobble every time he presses on it. Even this, we're going to put a piece of tape in there so that this actually stays in place, and once we do that, this will shim all that in there nice and tight. So now what we want to do is go in and test fit it again. Now keep in mind how fun this is to try to get it to fit, and we don't even have the wiring harness in there yet. Alright, so we have the radio in at the right depth. I think it's good. I think we can get it out now and do the final assembly. So now that we have the radio screwed in, we have our F for fan and T for temperature. Fan is on the driver's side, so let's go ahead and we'll put the fan through the hole with on this side, and then the temperature is just going to come out the middle with the mode power harness. And now we can go ahead and connect up. Plug in the hazard switch. Just make sure none of the wires on the bottom are sticking behind where you're going to screw it in. Alright, so there we go. We have it all in place. Now what we need to do is turn it on and make sure the air conditioner works. You should see this change up here. Alright, we're good there. Let's make sure the radio works. So we're all set and ready to go with that. We'll go ahead and get the rest of the center console in, and we're done. Alright guys, the RX-8 is done. Happy, right?
Yeah.
Totally. As always, on to the next one.